Did we lose someone?
And now they're back.
Max, still sorting some things out. Can you not hear us?
I can hear you. I just kind of got booted, but yes, I'm back. Kind of. Pretty sure.
Okay, well, welcome back. Alright, sounds like a plan. Well, being as we are all of a similar understanding as to where we are, we all understand what's at stake for these actors of our heart and protagonists of our moment, the up and coming potential captains of industry that is in fact this particular coterie, as well as what it means or might mean if things go awry. And before diving fully into that moment and embracing the potentiality for chaos, dismemberment, and things considerably worse, I'd like to thank you guys. I'd like to thank you each and every one for being here. Play is important, and we have come a very long way across several cities, across several different variations of what this game means. And I'm looking forward to exploring these characters to the fullness of their individual stories and their stories as a whole. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. And without further ado, without doing until we don't, as I've grown fond of saying, I'd like to say that this is officially the brew. Epilogue. Welcome to Cream City. When everything is finished, that is the beginning. Now, brief, very small recap of events that have brought us here. In the last few weeks, this coterie, these right-hand persons to persons of note, to kindred of note within the city of Milwaukee, have been punished into a reward. They are the only coterie of kindreds tasked with watching a specific domain. That in of itself being watchmen, the punishment, the carrot behind it all is that the domain that they have been forced, cajoled, tricked, manipulated into, and otherwise bamboozled is rife with potential. It covers a fairly large square of the town. There are hidden facilities within its domain. There are internecine strife between the police and the gangs ratcheting up several notches, but within the domain, they are responsible for the former open secret of the criminal bazaar that was located via the hidden access behind the Taco Bell. They are also kindred of note because, again, they are one of the few coteries granted domain. Yes, it's kind of a punishment as they have to watch over it, they have to maintain it, they have to manage it, but it sets them head and shoulders above their peers of equal or greater age. There's but one actual coterie that had been granted domain in all of Milwaukee, and that was because they came back with news and believed fact that Prince Decker's child was in fact no longer amongst us. His rewarding of them a small parcel of land was the first of its sort. It was a reward. They have been carefully maneuvering and seeking control. Outside of the small coteries, the only entities that actually have any significant domain are the prince himself and the various tribes of the Hakata spread throughout the city. 3 particular zones fully under their control and sway and bound by the contract, the quickly lapsing contract. And towards one of these domains, our coterie is headed. They've exited their vehicle. They're traveling across the all but dirt road. There is asphalt beneath the dust and debris, but with so many trucks, large and small, tractor, trailer, and parcel, there's an accruement of soil across the road. They've arrived in all but silence, as their travel here, after a certain point, was lonely and desolate. And while this portion of the city is still in the city, it is isolated enough that it would be a hike for most other denizens. They know that where they're heading is in fact a charnel house. It is in fact an abattoir. It is in fact a place where death happens. Many of them have had the opportunity to utilize the services here, obtaining blood, sustenance, and occasionally disposal. They know what lies ahead. An operation built from, for, and operated by kindred in various states. It makes what lies ahead fraught with tension. They are moving outside of the full power and control of the city. They are moving out from behind their angels, and they are on a mission of mercy. And so we pick up with Charlie moving a few feet further from the actual core of the coterie as she mounts the nearest divot. First the dip into the ditch next to the road, and a soft rise of a mound, adding some layer of protection and security for what lies beyond the other portion of the poultry farm they're now visiting. Up ahead they can see on their right a 4-person guard shack, which is an odd thing. Who wants to steal chickens, and why wouldn't there be more security? And it's only as you all grow closer that you realize the reason why there is not more security closer to the road. As you look toward the processing center, as you look toward the sales center, and as you look toward the buildings that make the poultry farm, you realize that on top of each there are a series of catwalks. On those catwalks are guards. No flashlight needed because the lights are just enough, especially out here in all of this wide darkness. You can hear, more than see, the quick jog and trot of several animals out there, meaning that they have dogs to keep the animalistic predators at bay. But they're well trained enough that as long as you are not broaching the property or breaking into one of the buildings, you are left alone. Their prey considerably less bipedal. And inside the guard shack there are only 2 officers, a strawberry-haired woman who is scrolling through her phone, and her equally distracted partner who has the bars that give rank without any responsibility. But other than that, in the few trucks outside of the processing plant, the processing center where you all are headed, it's all quiet on the western front. No trucks, no cars, no people, just you all. So into the quiet, Raiden, his voice carrying despite its low volume. I don't want to alarm anyone, but there are several places where security is not needed. And those places have lessened security because they intend that any violators of their peace will not leave.
Then we'd best be on our best behavior. But have an escape route just in case.
I'm attempting to map such a thing out, though the distance between the parking facility and where we are headed makes that sorely difficult.
Not to be a buzzkill, guys, but are you absolutely sure we should be doing this? Because this just doesn't look kind of desolate. And I'm all good for a nice desolate scene, but this is starting to seem a little bad for our health.
I highly doubt they're going to be the aggressors in this situation. They are bound by certain rules, as are we. And they have more to gain from negotiation than they do from aggression.
But just the same, I don't think we should split up or spread too far apart, because then we'd be easier to pick off. And I have seemed to have lost my bullet shield. She's looking around for Ty.
That is a curious thing entirely. Kai is normally more than amenable to a fight, whether it's a good, decent outcome or not. Testing his mettle has proven to be his primary character trait for as long as you've known him, proving himself to be worthy of continued immortality. His sudden disappearance is troubling. He's not that stealthy after all, unless of course he is. If he's been holding back and managing himself, that opens up another potential can of worms.
Despite the words to the contrary, Charlie will keep moving on her own tangent, looking for high ground and a better view of the place.
So a tactical analysis of the situation and moving to what should be the best outcome. Let's have Charlie roll either well, it's not a street fight, so let's go either wits plus academics or intelligence and survival. And if she has heightened senses, you may of course add that +1. And that should be the die pool.
No heightened senses, but she does have sense the beast.
Okay. There are several hundred books written on strategy and how to best maximize the potentiality of victory, to all but assure it by utilizing the enemy's weaknesses against them, and also on more occasions than not using their strengths against them. Let them tire themselves out, let them wear themselves out, let them fall to your excellent choice of battleground. Let them. It's a bunch and a lot of that sort of doctrine. But all of those many doctrines fail to encapsulate and truly include the adrenaline that surges. It doesn't properly address what it's like to have the tension mounting with no visible relief in sight. Because that's what Charlie is dealing with. Because out there in the dark are things that want to harm them. Somewhere in that darkness is a lighted room where you all will be meeting. You'll be trapped inside. The high ground out here, well, they have it. The tops of those buildings, those catwalks. Whatever, if they have any armaments or they're just simply recording, is all working against you. If that was your idea of a siege. Luckily for Charlie, she knows better than to attempt to siege a fortress. She didn't have the time. After all, she only has the night available to her. She realizes that this is an open bowl. There's one way in, is how they've designed it. Entering from their parking facility where you all park down the street leaves you only one way in, which means they're only concentrating on one way for the most part. They're wary of their surroundings, but their focus is where they've set their obvious and often ignored trap, which you all are walking towards. The guard shack is the middle point. At that point, you are effectively past the point of no return. You are well within their sights and easily affected. And it troubles Charlie that she doesn't see any limousines. She doesn't see any high-priced vehicles that would seem to signify the presence of someone who called themselves Pater. She sees trucks idling, parked. She sees no employee vehicles trolling the grounds. All's quiet, a little too quiet, as the saying goes. Safety is at the car. Safety would have been attacking or approaching from their lee side and making it across that wide, expansive, open ground. It would be doing something unexpected.
She will move back to the others then, staying as low to the ground and as quiet as possible.
So out of the dark, as you guys are nearing the guard shack, Charlie eases back into your presence, seemingly materializing out of the near-at-hand darkness. The two guards inside are literally bored out of their mind and too busy on their phones to realize that you've all just walked up.
I don't like this, y'all. It's too quiet.
Do you think they've set us up?
It don't look like they want importance here.
I think that's the idea. This place is meant to be low-key.
So, not for nothing, but where's the car of this important negotiator that you guys were talking about? Because I'm not seeing it.
Exactly. Everything looks like it belongs here. Ain't no limousines, ain't no SUVs.
So are you suggesting we fall back and go around, or return back to the brewery and come up with something else?
Out of curiosity, would I recognize any of the guards?
That's a good question. Would Mal have been a frequenter of the relatively cost-effective blood that is.
She's not a farmer, but she is a bagger, so possibly.
Okay, so she's made it part of her routine. She wants a little bit of the good stuff, the unfractionated stuff that she's visited places like this. And probably has visited this place significantly enough. Would you be so kind as to let's give it a quick test? We need a DC 3 with your charisma plus. If you have contacts, or if you have no contacts, then charisma plus streetwise. Alone, not charisma streetwise plus contacts.
Right. Well, that would be streetwise. Sorry, Discord's being a little laggy.
It is. It's just blinking away. Is it Discord or is it Thirst?
No, it's Discord. It was taking, I had typed all that out, and it's just eventually it will come up.
You don't know any of these guards personally, but you've seen them once or twice as you've come. The redhead's name is Roger. Not her last name. Her first name is Roger. Her father always wanted a boy and had 9 girls, she being the youngest. Something that you found hilarious, but were smart enough not to laugh about, which is what most people do. They would laugh or stare incredulously and pester her, and you know that her name is a sore subject. Those who get it right receive a small bit of grace. Those who get it wrong are typically shooed away or worse.
Perfect. So Mal will just stroll up to the guard gate and Roger, hi.
She nearly jumps out of her seat because she didn't realize you all were there. She is literally not expecting anything tonight. And she looks up, looks past you, looks to the left of you, all but does to make sure that she is in fact where she's at, and there's no one who's done anything to sneak up on her otherwise outside of you. There's a metric ton of cold, wet fear sweat coating her brow. Oh my god. Hi? Hello?
How are you tonight?
Good. Yeah, hey, those deliveries aren't being done tonight. The managers, shut down the whatever it is that you guys buy over there. They shut that whole thing down. There's not going to be any roach coach or anything else. I thought they spread the word. They told everybody that there wouldn't be anything happening tonight. A lot of the other the wholesalers that come by kind of got pissed off. You're not gonna get pissed off, are you? I'd hate to.
No. Of course I wouldn't. She will frown and look very concerned. But I didn't get any messages.
Huh. They said they told everybody. Hey, Bill, what do you want? I'm not doing any of those stupid fucking dances anymore. I'm tired. No, not that.
Dances?
Yeah.
Are we dancing?
Yeah, I got 26 followers on Toktik, and so I've been trying to, like, Bill dances funny. His belly jiggles, and no matter how much he works out, he just can't get rid of it. So when he dances, it makes a little. But you don't want to hear about that.
Her face will actually light up, and she'll like do that little clappy thing that kids do, like when they're super excited about something. Like, can I see one?
Like, really? Seriously? Oh my
yes.
God. And she immediately swipes her phone and moves through a couple of different apps, and she opens up an act, and she turns her phone towards you, and she hits play. This isn't my draft. I'm going to put that up in like an hour, because you want to space them out so that you're putting them up like every 2 hours so they get maximum views. And then she shows you the phone, holding it up to the glass, and it's literally her and Bob in this same guard shack. And to say that it is the maximum cringe possible would be an understatement, because she has Bob front and center, instead of normally where you have someone guest star in your little vid there to the right or to the left. Bob is right smack dab. Bill is right in the smack dab middle of the dance, and she's off to his left. And you see 3 dark SUVs moving past them up that little walk road that's to the little right of the guard shack from where you're standing. They move up that little walk path past where everyone usually picks up their supply and circles around the building, disappearing out of sight.
Will giggle happily and clap again. Wonderful. I love it. It's so great.
See? I tell you, within the next 3 months, I'm going to get those 26 followers up to 30.
I believe you can do it. And then she will smile. It's like, well, I guess. Do you know when the deliveries are resuming?
Yeah, they said it was just for tonight. They're supposed to be meeting someone named LaRue Black is supposed to show up to the gate, and we're supposed to point them down the...
That's I will grab her hands and pull her forward. That's her!
Really? That's a bit on the spot on your nose, isn't it?
How crazy is that?
You're Miss
I tell you, Roger, I don't know. It's like fate. Just like your video.
Yeah. Okay.
Millie's been watching this whole thing with this confused disdain on their face, like back and forth, like a tennis match. And then when the guard gets pulled towards them, she attempts to smile.
It's a lot of you. Wow. I didn't know there's going to be that many of you, but management wants you to, and she points to the building where Mal knows that most of the purchases, as long as they're under a certain volume, are done there. On the next entryway over, for the larger wholesalers that are buying by igloo cooler and larger, they're doled out through there. But you guys are pointing to where normally the sales actually happen, the small, 150 milliliters here, 200 milliliters there, 15 milliliters that are going out. It's that sort of part and parcel sales happening. The funny thing is, as you're looking at the building and realizing where they're directing you, you also know that Charlie's, having done surveillance, should have seen something if those vehicles really just ended at the back of that building. It's large enough that you could park inside if there's another door on the outside. But if they parked inside, isn't that counterproductive to someone negotiating and leaving quickly? And echoing those thoughts, Raiden leans forward. I can't say that I enjoy the idea of this. And if we are to go into that building, that makes our chances of escape, if we need to, far less. Would you like me to wait outside?
Do you think you'd be able to protect us outside?
Nothing will get
I
past.
can wait outside. Max starts sketching the area.
Excellent. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus craft as you begin mapping out your rough gesture so that all the details line up, and it is to scale in the sketch as well as how detailed and skilled the sketch is. Now the question is, forward into the brink, or do you all decide that this is not for you?
This all smells worse than this chicken farm. I don't trust it.
So are we turning back?
I have a feeling that whatever they were going to do to their hostage, they have done already. I would rather go back to safety, yes.
Y'all sure you want to risk it? There's a lot of us.
But how many of us are actually fighters? And how many of us should explore? They're artists, are not.
I think the big thing is how many of us are fighters and how many of us think they're fighters.
If we turn back, we'll be safe, but you understand what you'll be sacrificing. And on top of that, it may be perceived as a weakness that we did not proceed forward when we were already so close.
You're the ones got dog in the fight.
She definitely pauses for a minute and kind of pinches the bridge of her nose, thinking. Fine. Yes, I agree. We are here, and we cannot be showing weaknesses. They did this to test us, and they are going to continue to do this to test us if we do not do something about it. So, we will take all precautions that we can, but we will go forward.
Very well.
All right, stay near me.
Raiden, I would prefer if you joined us.
But of course. And he unbuttons his jacket. That's it. That's all. And he begins moving apace, stepping to Aaron's left and slightly forward. It's an amazing thing to notice, but most people don't. That small, graceful increase in speed and seamlessly moving so that whatever comes at you all first would be something that he would deal with. What was that you broke up?
I said onward then.
Yes, onward. And Charlie, as you move closer to, or well, pull Millie closer to you, is there anyone else you take into your immediate sphere of potential protection?
Probably Amalia. I think they know each other well enough from spelunking that she knows that, at least I perceive that Amalia is also not much of a fighter.
Not much of a fighter at all, but her intern is missing. The tall, strapping young man who has held her camera in some of the most chaotic of spaces. Stalactites and stalagmites all at once.
Okay.
Wait,
Yeah, well,
did we have other people with us besides Raiden and originally Kai? But I don't remember there being a camera guy.
no, not with us. It's likely really that only Charlie and maybe Aaron have met him.
Is he as tall as Aaron and Raiden, or?
Definitely almost as tall, but not necessarily, like maybe 6 foot, so like a few inches shorter than them, but still almost a foot taller than Mal.
Mal's been holding out on cannon fodder.
I looked up the average stats of a baseball player, and it's on average around 6 foot and 207.
Okay. That is the sort of research that we like from Mal. They are fonts of associations. Well, I double opened my screen. Can you believe that?
I can. I've done it a few times.
So as you all make that long, intrepid walk from the guard shack to that building there on the processing plant, the scent of chicken grows exponentially. Now, on most farms, they do their best to occasionally aerate things, keep the chickens moving, keep them, even if it's just walking in a circle, get them out in the open air as often as possible. It's a good thing. Because air and circulation dampens and lessens the odoriferousness of chickens. And even with the best cleaning, they are foul, and double meaning included. Gratis. Birds stink. Most people don't believe that until they're surrounded by several, potentially thousands of them. And while they're not out and while you don't hear them, because nighttime's a good time for them, they're typically resting. Warily resting, the least little loud noise or explosion of action will get their attention, will get them up and moving, will keep them active. And again, while most of them are sleeping, there's always one or two hens, if there's no rooster around, to keep an eye, to listen for the predators. Luckily, in a place like this, they feel safe, surrounded by nothing but the bombarding scent of other chicken and their waste. As you all get closer to the building, it is impossible to not be bombarded and assaulted by it. While there's not a physical barrier, it feels that way for those of you with heightened senses. It feels that way for those of you who have certain predilections toward less than ugly things.
Is that a hint towards poor Mr. Max, who's suffering greatly right now?
You're going to need more than one handkerchief sprayed with cologne, nearly overpowering for most others, but a palate cleanser for you. In fact, this is definitely a full balaclava doused in Dracar Noir to stave off the deleterious effects of all of that bombardment of scent. You are sure that when you walk through that door, your soul will leave your body. You are sure if you stay out here and bombarded with this American Gothic via the most brutalistic of artists, styles, and rendition, this looks like what it is, a jail, a penitentiary for animals, and it is soul crushing in its drabness. At least in most places the red stands out, it's a pop of color. Here it's clearly designed to hide blood and waste and just how dreary this whole operation is.
Max looks at everyone. This place hurts my soul.
You still have one of those.
Yes, it's one of the gifts that I have.
You'll be all right.
Seems dangerous. Do you sure you guys want me to come in?
A united front is always best.
You'll be all right. The whole world can't be caviar and bottle service.
Why not? That's kind of the point, isn't it?
Besides, if you go off by yourself, then you're more than likely to become the next thing we have to rescue.
What do I do for people? Okay, I'll go.
There is a moment that most people have when you walk in on something that you are sure you're not supposed to see. When you walk in on something and you're positive that whatever was happening there was not for your eyes, your ears, or your understanding of the situation. Yet you still find yourself there in the doorway, or walking past a window, or someone left the bathroom door slightly ajar. when you were moving through the hall. You find yourself in that odd situation. You know you were here for a meeting. You know that you're supposed to be here. You were, in fact, guided here by their guard, their person at the front gate of sorts. And yet, when you walk into the building, the unlocked door, because, well, you've been invited, you're a known quantity, you step into a room that looks like a medical cannabis dispensary. It's all drab colors and lots of hard, thick concrete, just in case anyone gets the idea. It's the illusion of both poverty and security to make sure that you think there's nothing of any value. You don't pay too much more attention than that. There's a surprisingly long and large disposable table placed center of the room. The normal chairs, the average chairs that are usually here, have been pulled back and stacked upon themselves at the back of the room. On one side of this disposable table is a gentleman who looks as if he would be well suited to be in some coal mine. The only thing missing is the soot on his face, at least. His hands look a little darker than they should. His clothing, while fine, is merely serviceable. He would be wholly in place in your imagination as to what a cartoon banker would look like if they were made flesh. His beard is a salt and pepper mess. It doesn't even go into streaks, and it's not patchy, but somehow it's both circles and stripes at once. There's spots of blackness, spots of gray, spots of a few streaks of white. Maybe there's a slash on the other side. It is a mess. It's filled, it's full, it's bountiful, but it looks as if his genetics couldn't decide how badly to screw him in the aging lottery. Thankfully, his hair, clearly choosing to abandon all hope, is completely gone. He has a huge signet ring on his left hand, which is silently thrumming the plastic table between him, and sitting with her back to you, with her guards on the perimeter of the rooms next to the concrete entryways into the back portions of the building, is Pater Rossi. And it is clear that the turning of the door latch stopped whatever conversation was happening. And the gentleman on the other side, seemingly alone, looks up, and his eyes bright, as if to say, "Now the party can start." Greetings, Miss LaRue Black. Hello, I'm Aloysius. And I'm sure you met the lovely Miss Rossi, who is your representative. We didn't believe that you might show, and as such, forgive me for not greeting you at the gate. That chair's there, make yourself at home. And then he sits back down, waiting.
She looks this man like up and down, like really studying him for a minute. I'm curious as to you thinking that I wouldn't show when you have something of mine.
Miss Rossi, I informed him that there was only a certain amount of value he might have by attempting to leverage violence upon something that you care for. He took it to mean that you did not care for it nearly as much as he had hoped, and as such its value diminished in his eyes. I can speak for myself. Pater Rossi, Miss LaRue Black, we believe that your chief financial officer, in having driven your company in the rears, would have value to you for, if nothing else, as an example as to how you might punish other employees who sorely misuse your trust. In his diligence and attempt to profit you, he cost your company a significant value. Miss Rossi, if looks could kill, would have eviscerated Aloysius and brought him back to eviscerate him again. Instead, that quiet moment of seething, that quiet flash of power and frustration, she turns and smiles towards you. As I stated, I did negotiate on your behalf, and we were nearly to the point of verifying where in value this particular employee rates. Yes, we understand that you have perhaps potentially no true use for the individual based on this. I can't blame you. More good money after bad. And then he pauses as if for the first time realizing that Aaron is standing over your shoulder, that Charlie is acting as shield, and that Max is there as well. Raiden silently to the side, allowing full view of you all, but not allowing anything to get close. Oh, I see. We have a full entourage. Do pull up a chair. I understand the need for a show. I assure you. As long as we conduct ourselves as good upstanding members of the business world, all things will be amenable.
Aaron will find a seat and pull it up to the table and sit down.
Max finds something, looks at it. The chair. Are they wingback chairs? Or are they like hard metal folding chairs?
They're not folding, but they are in fact hard and very metal. Easier to clean things off of them that way.
He touches one with his pinky. Rubs his pinky and his thumb together. Smells it. I think I would rather stand. Thank you, though.
You're very welcome. Now, the question remains, are we getting a fair value here, considering his lack of stock in your estimation?
I'm a little confused as to how you say you're getting value for something that you took.
Holding property in escrow for your financial responsibilities is a standard operating procedure. As your chief financial officer, I believe that he should have been acting on your orders to protect your business, correct?
Millie puts on her most bored face. I am like her absolute. I'm beyond this. This is, beneath me sort of face. And she looks at Sophia. You said that you had already come to a near conclusion before we arrived. What was that conclusion?
The safe, unmolested return of your child for equal value in effort, labor, and time. which must be renegotiated, of course, because due the lack of value in being held in escrow. If your chief financial officer is of less than significant value equal to the parcels of land and full value, then we need to renegotiate. We have nothing held in surety of your debt.
That's the thing, the land was never an option. So you took him under the assumption that you would find equal value and be able to talk me out of this land, but the land was never an offer. So you must have to find an equal value somewhere else, as that is taken off the table and not an offer.
What about the beer?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
I'll say, what about the beer?
If he could die again in this moment, he clearly would have. He somehow manages to slump in his chair and look from Charlie to Peter Rossi, who is... It's impossible to verify, but you are sure that in a brief flickering moment, a changing of the light, somehow someone moved. There was a smile sitting there as she stared daggers into Aloysius.
Oh yes, the bark. That was incredibly delicious, and she smells it. Sophia, I mean, the Peter Rossi.
I see. And he looks from Peter Rossi to you all. I believe that we have entered into false negotiations in regards to closing this matter. We would like all properties extended and held in lien returned, as it is no longer safe in its location. For such a thing, we will offer you your chief financial officer's left arm and leg.
Perhaps I'm missing something, but are you saying that you will offer body parts of her chief financial officer for the return of some swill?
Sir, you clearly are no gentleman and have no idea as to what you speak. Swill is what most kindred who cannot hunt for themselves or lack the stomach to end the life of whatever mortal they are feeding upon consume.
Yeah, that viscous swill that was at the bar. Is that what we're talking about? Don't mind me. I'm just a poor, defenseless, unassuming, non-business minded person here only at her will. But is that what we're talking about? That swill?
I'll have you know, sir.
Watch his reaction.
And he slams his hand, the palm of his hand, down onto the table. It somehow withstands the blow. And he stands up, The moment that he does, Peter Rossi slides her chair a half square back. Her guards take a half step forward. The door behind him opens, and in walks a gentleman dressed as if he's cosplaying a future cop, full body armor, helmet held under one arm. Mr. Dunson, is there something we can assist you with?
You can kill some bugs for Neil Patrick Harris.
I'm sorry, I don't swing that way, madam. No, Captain, no. Not as of yet, but would you be so kind as to... hold steady. And then Aloysius, still standing, leans forward, resting his knuckles on the table. Sir, you have offended a product of great value. Your value to Miss LaRue Black is uncertain here. I doubt that it rates very highly, considering you have no understanding of which you speak, but are unable to stop your lips from flapping. If you would be so kind as to offer an official retraction of that damning statement.
Is her financial officer still live?
So, several things need to happen at this point. The terms of what happens next had been extended. He is highly offended that you are all but socially assassinating the market value of his product. And you have not addressed the request for an apology. If you would be so
I asked a counter question, actually, storyteller. I actually asked a counter question to gauge his reaction.
If you would be so kind as to open up your book to social combat. You are in front of your friends, associates, your coterie members, and he is in front of potential partners if things work out in his benefit. Slaves if they work even better to his benefit. He has every intention of receiving that apology. Or not, as the case may be. The question remains at this point. Your counter question, is that your response to his demand for an apology? Or are you attempting to ignore that clear, very affronted and very offended demeanor? And you all are aware of this happening right there before you.
At this point, Aaron will finally speak up. Seeing as how you value this product so much, yet you are only willing to offer an arm and a leg, doesn't seem all that valuable if that's all it's worth to you.
His mouth open, his jaw tensed. He looks from Max to Aaron to Miss LaRue Black, and then finally the pager. Is this how we are doing business? Will anyone, and he looks towards Peter Rossi again, before moving his gaze back across to you all. It is clear that in this situation, in this moment, he is using whatever skills and training he learned thus far to remain as calm as he is. You've all been in similar situations. That one thing or that several things compiling and compounding to give vent to your darker half, to open the gateway for the beast's whispers, which never leaves your mind, to grow louder to the point where you can feel it slipping in between your neurons. You can feel it crawling through your veins. You can feel it slowly taking over you to act. Our product is it is the only thing that will save Milwaukee from what is coming. And yes, it was allowed to be stored secretly amongst the larder and stock of your institutions. To which point Ms. Rossley clears her throat. If I might, if I may, we are aware of where things are stored. Miss Lulu Black, what would you like to offer?
In return, all my chief financial officer, in whole, unharmed, and blessed, you will receive back all of the stock that has been stored at my location, a formal written apology, and 2 minor boons.
Maybe minus a 6-pack.
You are attempting to defraud us. We have invested a significant amount of value into your company. An apology is necessary for business to continue. You have fronted my product and
Allow me to extend my warmest apology that you took offense at me calling your drink swell. Okay, Aloysius? Now, here we continue.
he hangs his head, still resting his hands on the table in front of him. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your manipulation and persuasion? And while that roll is happening, Mallory, you caught Kai sneaking around before. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus awareness or wits plus subterfuge? And Charlie, you do have sense of the beast, correct?
I do.
Excellent. That's always a good way to be. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus animalism?
Wait, was I rolling something?
If you'd like. What is it that you... With the offer that you've extended, is there anything else that you are attempting to do to sway him? Are you doubling down, driving home the value there inherent therein, or are... Oh, wow. Fate does not like Charlie this moment.
She's too amused with the hoity-toities arguing with each other there, I guess.
It is a show, indeed. He's near apoplectic. He manages to not quite cross over into that realm just yet, but it is clear soon the jowls underneath the beard will be shaking. The fist will be violently twitching as he points to his fat, over-muscled fingers. And maybe someone the other about chess.
I have a specialty in gaslighting under my persuasion.
Yes, let's roll that entirely, shall we? And you're being honest with the offer. So that's charisma plus persuasion. And Aaron, in the middle of this, is there anything that he is attempting? Okay. Is there anything he is actively attempting? His offer to assist Max in distracting already noted, but is there any active pursuit currently?
Ooh, this is a good question. Aaron is honestly more looking to hear what the response is, and he'll make his decision on whether he should comment further based on that. At the moment, he thinks that... one second. At the moment, he thinks that the situation is being handled rather well by his coterie. So at the moment, he's not going to add anything more until he knows what direction the conversation is heading.
Still waiting on Amalia's wits plus awareness to finalize the roles for the moment. Discord being sucky-wucky again.
Yes. Basically just my entire computer.
I'm sorry.
It's all good. If there's anything that the easily distracted person is, it's aware.
Okay, so that brings you in total for the group effort in this moment to 14. So let's give the counter roll and see where everything is. What did you all notice? What did you all amend? What did you all manage to potentially stop dead in its tracks? 4. So in the moment with Aloysius standing, threatening, demanding, Amalia finds the situation dull, daft, dumb, and a matter of simply someone putting their foot down on someone else's neck, either actually or virtually. And she's watching the captain. She's watching Pedro Rossi's guards. She's watching Raiden picking at absent, non-present fluff off of her pants and just keeping her eyes moving around the room. She notices the shadow begin to manifest in the doorway. She notices Raiden notices the shadow. She notices Pedro Rossi's guards taking a half step away from the table and towards the doorway, closing off the captain's potential retreat. She notices that while Aloysius is blithely unaware of these things, that Peter Rossi is in fact intently focused on the doorway, not looking towards the captain or her guards. And a shadow of something begins to slowly solidify, as if something is oozing between two panes of glass and squeezing out the other side. And while Aloysius works diligently to choke down, to restrain himself, it is clear that for all of the airs that he's put on, that he is not a well-moneyed individual. He, in life, clearly was someone of manual labor and manual dispositions. And the double-pronged assault, the sorry, not sorry, dude, and the offer that he finds less, and the doubling down of whatever it is that Peter Rossi is doing as she stares a hole past him, through him, making him feel as if he is still that same lowly manual labor, as if he is that same poor individual working hand to mouth, as if he is in fact all those many decades ago. He is not less than these idiots. He is not less. Can't end like an overinflated balloon. The pop is expected, but comes as a surprise all the same. Captain! Remand these... And he can't even get the words out. He's spitting the vitae tin saliva that's flowing down his beard, and he leaps towards Miss LaRue Black to tear through her to get to Max.
Aaron is immediately going to shout out, Raiden. Simple one name command. He knows what to do. He's competent enough.
Charlie, who also said she would protect Miss LaRue Black, is going to interpose herself.
Max, as a child, you were considered precocious. As a young adult, you were considered roguish and rakish. And as a kindred, your greatest weapon is the tongue inside of it. It has unsheathed itself and scored blood. The response and reaction, unfortunately, is a little bit expected. But as quickly as Aloysius is moving, it is clear the only thing available to you is physical action. What is it that you are doing, as this clearly stronger than he seems individual is going to get to you?
I'm gonna prepare. Now is gonna be an awesome time for him to take a step to the side, and Max is going to look down at him. As he dives, Max is going to sidestep him and just kind of look at him with pity. Much pity.
All right, sounds like a plan. Go ahead and roll your dexterity and your dexterity and athletics. Aaron, you will be rolling for Raiden. Would you go ahead and roll 6 dice, no hunger. Charlie, would you roll your strength plus athletics as you're interposing to block and stop this asshole from doing something stupid? And Miss LaRue Black, you see this gentleman diving over the table towards you, technically diving through the table at you. What is it that you're doing?
I drop and roll, so he goes over my head.
Am I allowed to spend willpower for Raiden?
Yes.
Okay. Then the 5 successes stand.
The dice do not like me tonight.
And Millie, that is a dexterity athletics attempt on your part. Watching this happen, is there anything that Mal is doing? Watching it happen, watching it transpire. She does receive a +1 because she was ahead of the curve slightly. What is it that she's doing?
She is going to. Oh, she might kind of help push Millie out of the way.
Okay. That being
Like
the
a
case,
friendly thing to do.
that being the case, Millie, you receive a +1 from Malia, all but shoving you further into your roll away from the steamrolling individual who yelled to the captain, who is a bit flat-footed. So they receive instead of receiving a +1, they both will be moving on the same turn. And the question now is, what does fate have in store for the coterie? As the business dealings have devolved into actual fisticuffs, just like in days of old, conversations were often settled, the shove, a push, a stabbing, or an eviscerating of one's entire family. So let's see which side of the coin they land on currently. He's over once, gives them 7, and his hunger being 3. Where does that leave him? Alright. So, fate is angry at the coterie. The gods have spoken. Chance being what it is, several things happen at once. The asinine asshole that is Aloysius tears through the table, shoving Charlie down and away into the rolling path of Millie. As he's nearly through them all to cause damage, it's being more than just a shove, the attempt being to shove them through the ground. Raiden is there, meeting like the unstoppable force and the unmovable object. Sadly, Raiden is in fact human. Sadly, Raiden, for all of his skills in unhanding Aloysius, does not manage to put him down immediately. And when I say unhand him, I don't mean stop him from doing damage, stop him from moving forward. When Raiden unhands a person, the appendage goes flying across the room. Fury, the beast, and all of those undead gifts providing Aloysius impetus to continue moving forward. His true target, his pride being avenged, him not being made to be the fool that he was and is. This dealing, this moment is above his head, is above his price. And he crashes against Max, who's attempting to sidestep the raging bull that is this low man on the totem pole. As Max and Aloysius go crashing to the floor, you all, witnessing what it's like to be staring down a charging rhino, understand how dangerous that is. Small-sighted individuals who are unable to grasp the larger picture. While the captain, being flat-footed, fumbles getting his helmet on, but finally does in the midst of this charging forward. And the shadows and the guards slip into the back room as he begins yelling inside his helmet, "All forces, all forces, all forces." And you can't quite make out what he's saying. You're sure he can't make out what he's saying. He's never seen this level of sheer violence. When you shoot something or stab something, it goes down. This is not what he was hired for. This is not what... Wait a minute. It is what he was trained for.
Ooh. I have an idea. Is his eyes covered, or is he actually, like, is his face, is his eyes covered? That's my question.
His eyes are not covered.
Excellent. Aaron is going to throw up Daunt and he's going to look straight at the man after turning on Daunt and will use compel and say, "Run."
There are certain things that shouldn't happen. You shouldn't fight a land war in Asia. You shouldn't gamble against a Sicilian when death is on the table. And yet somehow in this moment, Aloysius and his men have managed to do the equal to both of those things. Outnumbered, visibly, even though he has more guards in that back room. Outskilled, even though he has more experience making these deals where others are over the barrel. And outgunned. She did not believe possible with such a small group. A businesswoman who was, "How dare you all?" And that's what he's attempting to say. But what comes out of his mouth is he's attempting to pummel and strike and bite and scratch and cry on Max. The captain, stunned into silence, takes a heartbeat of a moment as you roll your charisma plus dominate to see what the effects actually are. How quickly they take effect, if they take effect. How fast he moves.
Would I get to add presence to that because of Daunt or no?
No, you do get to add a +1.
There are other guards streaming into the room or no?
There should be. Charlie is well aware that there's no one that would not set this up so that it would be so. The hidden fist, the hammer beneath the table, the gun stashed into the toilet. Yet, the Pater's guards and that shadowy darkness have moved into that room. You are sure that there are more guards back in that room than could possibly be swam through easily. Yet no one's barreling out of that room, even though the captain is clearly calling for backup and assistance via whatever communications they have. And Aloysius is attempting to pummel Max into a paste. Riot is moving behind him to finish what he started with sending his hand flying, but that doesn't stop the moment, the initial moment. What is it that you all are doing?
Well, since he's unnerved and somewhat rocked, he's an older vampire, stronger, blah blah blah. Because he's sort of unnerved, what's my odds of using perhaps awe or presence?
Can't tell you your odds. Fate has been very fickle with you all this night. However, at this distance, you're right in his face. If you are attempting to attract his attention, that's almost a guaranteed. He's there, you're there. You are the focus of his anger because you shamed him in front of those silver-tongued, what would normally be his betters. You made him look foolish in front of the Pater, who he considered himself above, trying to demand ownership in his domain by using Miss Rossi instead of Pater Rossi. Her look forcing it out of him. He is aware that LaRue Black is a name that has a storied past of money. And you trying to make him look foolish. How dare you? So you have his attention.
Okay, I'm gonna try entrancement since he's right over me.
Entrancement, that is an interesting combo. Let's see how well you do. And fire away. While that roll is happening, Charlie, Now, Millie, what are you doing as Aloysius is attempting to beat Max into submission?
Charlie will pick herself up, bearing fangs, and help Miss LaRue Black to her feet as well. Or at least offer a hand to do so.
Millie is going to see what's going on behind her, but then take Charlie's hand up and nod towards the back room, seeing as how it looks like they can maybe get past Captain, because she wants to know what's going on back there.
Mal.
She is going to roll under the table and do her best to quietly make her way over towards the back room.
And Charlie, are you going along, or you're attempting to help Aloysius?
I will go along. I've seen Raiden fight. I assume he's got it.
All right, that being the case, we have the initial roll from Aaron, and the 6-die roll from Raiden in regards to severing the existence of Aloysius. And while that's happening, Max, would you be so kind as to go ahead, first rouse, then roll your charisma plus presence, setting the difficulty.
So I need to roll for Raiden again.
Yes, you rolled for your presence attack, your and dominate attack on the captain, who it's happening nearly at the same time.
Okay. So this is the second time. I just want to make sure, because I rolled 5 before. I was for okay.
And he unhanded the Aloysius initially, but it's not enough damage, my dear friend. It's not enough damage. Aloysius is a fellow that has no intentions of giving in to these fickle, and the list of curses going through his head is voluminous. There's an entire encyclopedia of synonyms and antonyms for good and bad going through his head at the moment.
And he's getting so angry, he's starting to sound like the pirate.
A lot of people can't tell the difference between Scots and Irish, but you know. Alright, and that's a composure. What is 5.
And it's supposedly against his composure and wit per the manual.
Yep.
Just in case you were looking it up, so I can save you some time.
Gotcha. And what does Aloysius do in the face of all of that bombardment? Oh, is that exact? No, he's shit. Rage is a shield. Some people say God be a shield, Jesus be a shield, take the wheel and all of that. You've never seen a non-Kai individual give themselves so fully over to their rage that it acts as weapon, defense, and succor to their small emotional clarity. But as you reach up with your aura, as you reach through the wall of violence around you, as he attempts to pound you into mush, there's nothing there but the hot, searing heat of anger. His will, his presence, his aura is just that. Almost, no, that's impossible. No one could possibly have stoked it while you were stoking it. Interesting. And at 4 successes, Raiden's blade flashes out, and while he does not sever So while he doesn't sever Aloysius's head from his shoulders, There is a gash going from left to right, meeting halfway through the vertebrae as Aloysius attempts to realize finally what's actually happening. And while that violence is happening, as everyone's pulling themselves up off the floor, and Mal is rolling stealthily behind Millie and Charlie as they go towards that back room, the captain loses his ever-loving mind. You've never seen a man yell so shrilly. You know he's looks to be male. He addresses himself, or has been addressed as captain, and he speaks with a very heavy voice, but the scream that echoes through the helmet is so shrill and piercing. You are sure that some small child is in danger right before you, as if the captain is in fact not one singular muscled, physically active male, but instead 2 or 3 underage children stacked upon each other beneath all of that high-tech armor. And he takes off past where Raiden's sword is flashing, past Aloysius pounding and pummeling, past all sense and reason, out the door you all entered in through. While moving toward the back door, it is everyone likes sausage. No one likes to see how it's made. Millie, having never shopped here, having never copped here, never thought about it being more than just a poultry farm. Charlie, having purchased here the good stuff, the unfractionated stuff, never really thought about it much. Come see, come aside. Whatever happens, happens. Que sera, and all of that. And the same for now. How the sausage is made within this business didn't matter. And as you all enter into the back room, you wish it stayed that same way. Because, it is bad, or at least less than palatable when bad things happen around you. When you see people unnecessarily suffering, you assume that, it's a horrible thing. Entering into the back room where the security officers are being beset, being waylaid by shadows tearing through their armor. You watch as one shadow dives into an armored woman who is standing to adjust some knob or something, to grab something off the shelf. As the shadow dives through her hair immediately turns white, her skin becomes sallow and paper-like, and she falls holding herself as if she was trapped out in a wild blizzard. Those shadows are moving through the space, but most glaringly on the opposite wall, behind glass, are several individuals in small cubicles, varying ages, weights, sexes, and what have you. But they are on the other side of the glass. Some are in wheelchairs, some are lounging in bed. They have IV and rubber tubing running from their arms. Some of them are being filleted, some of them are being smacked, some of them are being poked with needles over and over and over and over and over again. Something you don't think about, how the good stuff, the unfractionated stuff, is obtained, and how they're able to inspire such different flavors. And this is how they keep mortals, living individuals, as cows. And they gently, and sometimes forcefully, torture them. They work them over and use them and milk them like they are in fact dairy cows, is how they offset the sales here. They're not stolen from hospitals, they're not taken from people who are willing to donate. They are taken from humans kept in glass pens as if they are cattle. And in the last glass pen is Millie's son. He has a port in, but the tubes aren't filled with the good red stuff. He's sitting, his eyes wide, his mouth gagged and taped. He's strapped into an old-fashioned wheelchair from the turn of the last century. And then there are the shadows. And as the shadows pass, or dive through, or reach out and touch the guards who are present, the Pater's security forces aren't moving in and chalk marking their forehead and then slitting their throats.
Millie is in absolute shock of what is going on around them. And is kind of torn between, being frightened of what's going on around them and going to get her son. But getting her son wins out, and she just kind of closes her eyes and rushes forward towards the cubicle she sees him in.
There's a cost to doing business. There's a price inherent. No matter what field you head off into, no matter what enterprise you undertake, there's an investment cost. Many of those investment costs comes down to how do you protect your product? How do you ensure its sovereignty for as long as you possibly can? And as Millie draws close to the glass, she realizes that part of their protection of their process is this little flimsy glass wall. Part of how they protect their product and ensure its sovereignty as long as possible is this glass wall. It doesn't make sense. There doesn't seem to be any doors this side of the glass wall. But it is, after all, just glass wall, right?
Millie has a specialty in security analysis. Would this come into play here?
Yeah, be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus larceny, or your wits plus...
In addition to that, once Millie gets to wherever she is going, Mal has specialties in lockpicking and break-in.
There's a very old poem by way of riddle. In marble halls as white as milk, lined with skin as soft as silk, in a fountain crystal clear, a golden apple doth appear. No doors nor windows to this stronghold, yet these break in to steal the gold. What am I? And as that riddle by way of poem plays over and over in Mal's head, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus larceny plus 1 with your specialty. And Charlie, seeing a human cattle farm in process, where does that strike her? And is she bothered by the shadowy specters of nothing sapping the life out of these humans, only to have them dispatched without any semblance of being able to fight or defend themselves?
She's very bothered by that. She understands that this is a necessity and harsh fact of their existence, but she doesn't have to necessarily agree with it, and especially what's going on now. However, She is not sure what to do about it. She is mostly just watching the other two's backs at this point. She may pummel the glass and see if she can break it, but I'm assuming that isn't going to happen. But she's not.
Okay, does she have potence?
She does not.
All right, well, in that case, roll that lovely strength plus brawl -1. And while that's happening, and while everyone's considering the puzzle in front of them, how are they getting them in there? How are they keeping them in there? How to get them out of there? It's a sheer wall of glass. The glass looks relatively flimsy. It's only 2 inches thick. There's no way that glass should be able to stop them. There's no way that glass should be anything more than flimsy. Someone comes in with heavy weaponry, heavy duties, a hammer, a garbage can, a rock.
I assume it'd be all right to rouse my strength.
Yes. There's no way that she's not prepared for what she's going to do. She understands the problem. She understands what lies there ahead of her. While outside, there's something about a well-trained anyone in your employ. Watching them work is art. It's a self-teaching moment because they work for you. You are able to learn from them because you're able to see them in action. And there's some semblance of pride there as well. When they do exceedingly well, you made the right decision. You chose the right person. You are brilliant. At least that's what many people think and feel. Their pride and vainglory taking over. The question is Aaron much the same? Because as the captain goes tearing out of the door where you all entered, it draws your attention round and you see Raiden standing over Aloysius as Aloysius continues snarling and attempting to tear through Max. The speed and skill that Raiden displays is a thing and a work of art. Unfortunately, Aloysius is far sterner than that, and the beast has him and is playing him as if he is in fact a fiddle.
Are there currently any other guards in the room, or is it just Aloysius at this point?
It's just Aloysius. The captain took off out of the door you all entered.
Excellent. In that case, Aaron is debating whether he's going to assist because his combat skills are the equivalent of a wet noodles. So
You can choke out many a strong, tall, large people with a wet noodle.
this is true. Yeah, you know what? He's gonna help Raiden beat the ever-living shit out of Aloysius.
Max, to say this reminds you of grade school and the first couple of years of high school and your last year at college would be an understatement. The jocks, the goths, the emos, the would-be SoundCloud rappers, the VTubers, they all manage to fall prey and victim to your skills of persuasion, oftentimes leading them to feel some sorts of ways. And, well, the tramp of rushed and hurried feet out the door brings you back to the realization that you have an angry, bestial kindred above you, attempting to separate you from this existence. Much like all of those children, kids, and young adults of days of yore. What is it that you do?
Well, obviously I can't restrain him. That's not going to work. And
Nothing beats the failure.
entrancement is not working. No, I think I would be better served just protecting vital organs and hoping that someone in the entire coterie would be willing to, help a brother out here, because he's being pummeled and everyone's just kind of going on like it's Tuesday.
Excellent.
So I'm going to try to protect myself.
I'm helping.
I'm helping just someone else.
I care.
So what do I need to roll to mostly keep myself protected?
All right, throwing your arms up over your head and doing the all but fetal position to keep all of the, head from being separate from neck and all that good stuff. That is going to be a strength. Plus athletics. And while that roll is happening, Aaron, are you stomping? Are you punching? Are you pulling out knives that you haven't used and deciding to get in there and just kind of hacksaw Jim Duggan it off?
So before I decide on what I had in mind, I just want to get an exact picture of where Aloysius is physically in relation to everyone else.
Aloysius is elbow distance from the now prone Max, who is covering up his head and trying to roll and rock with the punches and the claw strikes and the attempted biting that is happening. At least the attempted biting has come to us is in the middle of a slowdown as Raiden nearly just took his head off. However, being older and made of sterner stuff, he did not achieve enough success to do so.
So he's over top of Max then?
Yes.
Great. So Aaron's going to grab a chair and slam it over top of his head.
Oh, we're going WWE.
Eventually it had to get here, so,
It's an effective, blunt weapon.
Well, the fight doesn't start until the first chair goes flying. So that being the case,
is there any wood in the room that we may have seen?
Yes, the chairs.
Hopefully you break it and stake him. That would be awesome.
That's the plan.
so that's a strength plus melee. And Raiden's roll is yours once more, which is 6 die. So your attack, Raiden's attack, and yeah, we'll see how well Aloysius rates against this second. Does the beast leave him? Because the source of his anger, the source of his fury, the source of his rage is still there, visible to him. And while the beast is always about self-preservation, unfortunately, sometimes it puts those dots in the wrong place. Emotional self-preservation is what the beast is after in this, to exercise its rage and fury and use that as the back door to slip free. So Aloysius is all about the air of respect. Aloysius is all about the seeming of respect, and if he can't get it without suffering, he will make sure that something and someone else suffers as much as he does. And in that moment, that is Max, the source of his rage. How dare you, skinny, pale, not even effective, anything, talk garbage about me, talk shit, get hit, is what's going through his head. However, what comes out is several I mean, it's very effective. He is clearly winning over the crowd. Everyone's all but silent. He even hears a few claps of applause as something rings out near him. And then, what does fate say is the outcome of this brawl for it all? The money in the briefcase match, the table, ladders, and chairs match that is taking place here. He didn't realize that was the case. It is. Oh! Fate has the intentions and well-being of the coterie well in hand, well in mind, and foremost in their thoughts present. Because it shouldn't have happened. There shouldn't be any way for Max to roll with the punches and keep his head covered and manage to keep Aloysius from biting, even with the garish, gruesome wound from Raiden's initial attack. Well, second initial attack. But he's able to outlast. He's learned the combo pattern that Aloysius is throwing, even though it's completely randomized and based solely on what's going to cause the most pain. As Raiden times his blade to strike just so to finish off what he started and send Aloysius' skull flying across the room, his sword drops, flashes in a flash of light. In the second before his sword strike connects, Aaron comes off the top rope with the chair, driving Aloysius' head further from his body as both sword and chair connect. So there's a swing and a bong, almost instantaneous, as Aloysius ceases to be in that moment. 75 years gone in a blink of an eye. Because while he does not immediately begin to ash, doesn't disappear, doesn't fade into nothingness, he doesn't dust, the body takes a full 20 nanoseconds to catch up with the fact that the head isn't connected. The head is still cognizant of its surroundings. The eyes are still moving. The fangs are still attempting to masticate air where Max was to get to him. And while death is never easy, some things are quite simple. Talk shit, get hit. And you realize that you've all killed the Kindred. Kindred older than most of you. Not quite old enough to be of a par and a peer with Aaron, nor Kai even. However, it is the end of all of those years stolen from time. Aloysius is no more. The vacuum that of his existence that nature abhors nearly as much as it abhors the vacuum of yours has finally come to an end. Speaking of coming to an end, as you all look at the glass, as you all inspect the wall, you realize that as Charlie gives it a hell of a punch that sends the reverberations ringing through the room, attracting the errant gaze and the guards who aren't in the middle of delivering coup de grace, realize that that 2 inches is considerably more substantial than it seems. You realize that the only way that those individuals could go in there is if... No one would do that. But yeah, the only way in is either through the floor beneath or the cubicles are built around the individuals. Meaning there was never any real intention of letting him go. Which makes sense. You don't see any facilities for them to evacuate their bowels or any way for food to be put into that cubicle. The goal is simple. Milk them for all they're worth. And the machine that is connected to the rubber tubes in his room clearly have not been turned on. And at least in the offer, Charlie managed to put a small crack. It's a hairline fracture at best. And put a small crack into the glass. It doesn't reach all the way through the 2 inches, but it's there. It has to count for something. And as far as Miriam, what you understand is...
Miriam.
I'm sorry. Mal. The only thing that Mal can literally and easily understand from this is that puzzle that riddle by way of poem that dancing through her head is clear. There's no way to get into such a place normally. But there is a way to get in if your whole goal is the destruction of that holds it. They built these cubicles on the fly around their targets. They have these materials here on the premises somehow. They're designed to keep the humans in there until they are no longer human, no longer of any viable use. The thing is an egg, and they are the yolk. With those realizations sitting there before you all, what is it that you do?
Millie's going to look for something heavy to break the corner of the glass with.
Charlie's going to whip out her hand cannon and take a shot right at that crack.
Amalia is going to look for seams or places where it's bolted or potentially bolted to try to disassemble.
There is, as much as we try not to pay attention to it, there is the luck of belief. There is if you believe it will happen, it will in fact come true. Like, it's one of the many reasons why you don't mention your worst expectation, your worst idea. And you don't use the words don't or can't or won't, because energy is attracted by energy. When you put it out there, it will come to you. So the luck of belief is constantly believing that things will work out no matter the situation and no matter how difficult the moment. You will survive, you will be rich, all of those many things, those beliefs that play out. And as Charlie fires, and the crack slightly moves, and as Mal looks around and takes in the situation and realizes all of the other tubing is filled with the lovely, beautiful red stuff, but you all don't smell it, but it's pumping through those tubes. Something somewhere is causing those tubes to pump. They do disappear into the floor and into the wall, but where do they terminate? What is causing that pump to happen? And why isn't Millie's son's pumps activated yet? It's clear they had one goal in mind, and Millie, grabbing up the nearest large item, which is in fact a axe that one of the guards had takes her first swing. Would Charlie roll at this distance, strength plus firearm? And would Millie roll a strength plus melee? And would Mal roll a wits plus larceny? Or an intelligence plus technology?
What's larceny? It is. Lockpicking specialty count.
Yeah, because you'd figure out you'd need the most secure location, but still easy to get to.
Is my rouse still active, or is it per
Yes.
roll?
You're still.
I'm gonna rouse the blood from mommy's strength.
You tempt the beast for additional oomph, and it does not rise to the baiting. It does not rise to the challenge. It does not excise a tax. It goes with the flow. Consider yourself lucky. Five successes overall. Oh, 6 successes overall. Not bad entirely. That being the case. Things happen that shouldn't. And they happen in such a continued escalating manner that it is hard to not feel as if for every moment fate is with you. Her sister Kismet or Serendipity or their cousin Murphy are working diligently and ardently against you all. The crack expands. And you all know in your heart of hearts, as unbeating as they are, if you keep at it, the crack will continue and you'll be able to get through its protection of these victims. You'll be able to get to the other side of the glass wall. And as you all realize this, and realize that with a little more effort, with a little more energy, you will get through the glass. Amalia realizes there's a lack of pressure. It literally is a pressure switch. It's the sort of thing that is in air conditionings and furnaces and is often found in discarded materials. If there is a pressure differential, the safeties lock. The device refuses to work. Save in the dastardly pools of individuals who are determined to get their money's worth no matter what. If the pressure in that cabinet changes before finding the machinery to cause the pump will activate. And you all will more than likely watch as Millie's son is evacuated of all of his blood before you. And the glass cracks more.
I'd be like, stop! You're gonna kill him if you keep doing that. We gotta figure something else out.
We gotta get him out of there.
Yes. I don't disagree. But you know what happens when you blow up a balloon too much? It pops. You pop the glass, you pop the boy.
Well, I mean, getting hit with little shrapnel's better than what's going to happen to him.
I mean, sure, if you want all of his blood to be sucked out quickly, not slowly like those other
No,
tubes
we
are.
don't want that.
Can't you just rip up the tubes?
Not quick enough. And Amalia will wander off to try to find a control room.
Why don't we just go back and talk to the people who are in charge?
Most of them are dead on the floor. She points to the people in the control room.
Not that Pater person.
There's an understanding that if we speak of the devil, they shall appear. And as you say, not that Pater person, you expect her to materialize out of the shadow nearest to hand. But instead, you hear the graceful, purposeful, striding steps as her heels hit the floor ahead of her arrival, each step growing closer. Not in any semblance of a rush, nor any semblance of stealth. It's almost as if she's declaring that she does not run from or towards anything. And as you all realize that, outside, you've not seen a beheading like that in quite some time. You've seen the snuff films here and there offered online of reporters held on their knees. It's one of the many niche markets to which Max, unfortunately and unenviably, has access to. He has made paintings and pieces from such moments. There's a strangely niche but profitable corner of the art world that's into that. Like, that's their jam. They like the realer, the better, viewed through your impressions on the world. Raiden doesn't bother flicking the blade. He takes Aloysius's surcoat and begins cleaning the edge of his blade as he crouches, making sure that the kindred is in fact no longer truly ambulatory. And he's waiting for natural occurrences to happen. While Aaron, that shouldn't have been possible. That shouldn't be possible. As the head, it's still there. The eyes are still blinking, and he's still snarling. And the drool, even though there's no voice coming out of it, is pooling underneath the cheek. The snarl is still there. The attempt to bite is still there. And he's technically still there, even though that's supposedly surefire death.
Does Aloysius have hair, did you say, or no? Was he bald?
He's bald. He has a nice bushy blood-soaked beard. Well, vitae-soaked at this point, actually.
He's going to try and walk over and pick up his head.
The head
And just
is trying to
hold
hide you.
He's going to hold it at arm's length. Well, he can actually bite me, though. It's just the head.
Yeah.
He does not have the leverage anymore.
Nope, but he keeps trying. It keeps trying. There's not a he or she at this point. It's just a head.
He's just staring at this. And just eventually just says, "Why won't you just die already?" And as he says that, he's going to run his finger along the bottom of the neck where the blood is coming out and just sample the blood.
Taste that lovely, lovely vitae. And while that's happening with Aaron and the head, he's reenacting a remixed version of Hamlet. What is it that Max is doing? The pummeling is over. The body is laying mostly across you. And Raiden's using the coat to clean his sword.
Max pushes the body off of him, ends up dusting himself off. Either way, I tried to use ability and I couldn't reach him. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It was like he was empty. Don't know if that might be good, useful information, but I've heard something called a homunculus, maybe? I don't know. But he has an ash, that's not good.
So this isn't the real Aloysius? Is that what you're saying?
There's no soul in there, and he didn't ash. I don't think so. Or if it is Aloysius, Aloysius was never one of us. Max stresses that so that Aloysius can hear him say that. And he stresses the one of us.
Well, at the very least, this technically means we haven't killed this kindred. If it is a kindred.
Oh, it definitely is. You've tasted vitae before. You don't want to get into the details of it, but that very much is vitae. Not blood. Not some alchemical version of it. That is in fact vitae. Dark, seethingly cloying vitae. Vitae typically has a melon-esque flavor to it, even beneath its various notes of spicy or greasy or nutty or woodsy. There's always that undertone and a hint of melon. It's 100% there. It is 100% so. It's a little cloying in his case. It's like a saccharine infusion all over your tongue, but it definitely is vitae.
He certainly tastes like a kindred, and he samples the blood again. Yeah, that's definitely kindred vitae.
Well, we need to figure out what he was, because I couldn't reach him when I reached into him. There was nothing there.
Well, we have one potential expert here, Miss Fiorella, was it? Any thoughts?
You look to where she was sitting and she's no longer there.
What the fuck?
Let's get everybody and get to getting, because whoever isn't here, it's not going to be too much longer before more people show up. We need to get to getting.
Do I take the head?
Yes, let's do that.
What about the rest of the body?
All we need is a little head.
That's what she said.
Yes, she did. Do you know where everyone else went?
Raiden points with the outstretched blade towards the back room. And he looks towards the body, which isn't moldering, which isn't desiccating, which isn't dying. And even though silent though he is, there is a definitive sense of someone who feels cheated.
You'll get him next time.
As you all begin moving into the back room, you arrive just as Peter Rossi comes into the space and stops, taking in the environment. Her guards finally dispatching the last guard here. The shadows disappearing back to the corners of the room. And she smirks and looks around, very happily pleased with the outcome thus far.
Spotting Fiorella, Millie turns towards her. I had no intentions of letting him go, as you can see, motioning behind him. Motioning behind her. We have to figure out how to get him out without breaking the glass, apparently, because if the glass gets broken, it'll set off some sort of failsafe that'll take all of his blood immediately and kill him.
That is a lovely feature. I can't wait to give it a full testing. Let's find the La Machina, the machine, as soon as possible. There's got to be some guidance behind this. Where do you all think it might be? Is it in the ceiling or in the floor? Or is it in that room filled with other such devices? Strange machines doing strange things.
Well, I guess we could trace the tubing, but probably in the room with the other machines, if I had to guess.
I can trust the tubing just to verify before we make a mistake, because we really are against the clock at this point.
The clock? No. Why would you believe such a thing? Sunrise is not for several hours, and as the new owners of this small outcropping, I would more than be amenable to you all associating throughout the day to escape what we need to escape.
I appreciate that.
It is the least I can do. You all managed to dispatch the eldest member of the Dunstones in all of Milwaukee.
About that, he still wants to bite me.
Yes, of course. It is what they are good at, after all, isn't it?
Aaron holds up the head.
And is gnashing and attempting to bite, and his eyes are taking in everything else. Oh, that's right. And she crosses the distance. If you would be so kind as to hold him squarely and firmly.
My pleasure. Here you go.
And she leans forward, looking into his eyes. Everyone with heightened senses or sense the unseen gets a +1. Everyone else who's just taking it in with normal kindred senses, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your wits plus either insight or occult. As she stares longingly and deeply into the severed head of Aloysius. Alright, let's start with what Charlie witnesses. Watching the Peter Rossi, or as she's been called, lean forward to look into the eyes of a severed head. It is a feeling that's akin to being drowned in sand. You feel it filling you up slowly in places where you know it shouldn't be. It's itchy and scratchy, and yet it is depriving you of all semblance of oxygen. You feel as if the monsters of your childhood are actually real and close enough to inhale your lovely fragrance. It's an uncomfortable thing watching her do it. No one should be that blithe about death, or should be able to be so comfortable with it. Something in that deep recess of your mind is troubled by watching her. And then Max and Mal and Lily. As Pedro Rossi looks into Aloysius's eyes, you are immediately struck with the old aphorism, the old phrase, that the eyes are the windows to the soul. And the way that she's looking into what should not be there, she's looking through those windows at that empty shop. Aloysius is dead, but you are sure that she is planning a robbery that has already happened under her watch. You are sure that there's an exchange of energy there on such a fundamental level that you feel dirty by it. It's almost as if you're literally watching her reach into his pocket. Say if his pocket is made of the skin of his leg. You are fully aware that something that should not be is happening right in front of your very eyes. And then, Aaron, all of those things at once, and you see it happen. A little ephemeral grayness, a bit of lack of color. It's like watching your grandma from both sides of your family tongue kiss at a family occasion. That's how dirty you feel, watching that grayness, that lack of light dissipate from Aloysius into Pedro Rossi's breath. As if she unspoke something, as if she undid something that had the ability to molest everyone's sense of ethical and moral understandings. And then she leans back. Oh, it is nothing. Death takes its time and moves in its own time. And she turns back. We need to find this machine to free this child. And as she says that, free this child, the head begins to slowly desiccate. The hair seems to grow longer, but in truth what it is the skin moving away from the skull. It's suddenly a little bit more difficult to hold because now the skin, the dead skin of the kindred in your hand is beginning to dry and tear, and its weight of the skull is pulling at that skin. What do you do?
Aaron lets it crumble in his hand and just mutters, "Fascinating," and then drops the ashes to the floor.
You didn't realize it, but as you stood, the skull extended. It was only as the dust and powder of the remains of Aloysius hit the floor, the skull initially sliding free a few seconds before it powdered and ash into nothing. Just as it struck the floor, it powdered and ash into a puff of residue. But in all of that, you didn't realize that Raiden was standing at a 45-degree angle so that he could, if need be, decapitate Pedro Rossi. Her guards had not realized he managed to get so close. And neither had Aaron.
Aaron won't say it aloud, but he thinks to himself he is way too good at his job.
Come, we need to find this. You want him free, correct? I'm sure we can find another way to put him to use and increase your value. Well, his value to you, of course.
While that whole thing with the head was going on, Millie was mostly looking for a way to kind of trace the tubing back and focusing on that. So she's already kind of been walking towards where the tubing looks like it's going.
Well, it goes into the floor and into the solid walls behind it, which makes it easy, just walk behind it, see where it leads. But that's where those tubings actually go. But much like a cooling system for a beer tower, they intersperse and mix and meet in several different places along the way. The goal in mind, the trick in mind, is to find where they terminate. And as she nudges everyone verbally, what is everyone doing? Having witnessed what it is that you witnessed, having been in the presence of what you all been in the presence of.
Max works himself towards wherever those tubing could be going, pretty much following Millie, trying to figure out how to turn the machine off.
Aaron will say, I'm gonna see if there's anything in one of the other rooms. Maybe there's an observation room or something.
Amalia is just like, yep, we do that kind of thing, whatever. And like I said before, she's gonna search for the control room.
Alright, luck of the draw. Who is the quickest in tracing out the spaces beneath the floors and behind the walls to find where everything terminates? Does anyone have an intelligence of 4 or higher?
I have a 3.
Millie is at exactly a 4.
Not I.
The trap unveils itself in part, in pieces, slowly materializing like land rising up out of the fog. They are operating a snuff shop and finding a way to be profitable from that, to profit from that. It's ridiculous that they would do so in such a manner, and yet all things lead to the basement, just like the butler always did it, or any of the innumerable suspicions and rumors that people overlook. Everything ends in the basement. There shouldn't be much of a basement in a place like this. The scent alone would make it just reprehensible. And yet, lo and behold, following tubings up, through, around, down, everything ends in the basement. The undercroft. And you realize that it's so much worse. It's not just the truly utilizing mortals as cattle. But as you all descend down the stairs, following Millie's lead, following one tube to the next, looking for the control room, everyone converging at the same point at the top of the stairs that lead down. The factory underneath should be, if there actually is a actual basement, it should be a mass, a warren of pipes and tubes and steel or wrought iron and things that are easy to clean and easy to maintain, leading to some central control room, is what you're expecting. But it's so much not that. The tubings appear out of the ceilings, having gone through various walls and hits various other floors. You realize that the tubing, the feeding, there are sample ports and rooms throughout various locked or formerly locked spaces in the processing plant. There are places where kindred or other individuals into that sort of thing can sit and sample a tube as if you are sampling a hookah. There are places where there are sub-controls that will feed through dumb terminals to get back to the main control center. There are places where the tubings are there to decant one's own flask of offered blood. There are places that shouldn't exist. They're cruel by the very definition of them. Someone seriously has an eye washing station where these tubes terminate. Kindred are wonders when it comes to how depraved they might be. But all the same, traveling through the building, searching out which dumb terminal ties to which access point, and where does everything end up. You all end up in the terminus, or at least what the mouth of the terminus. Everything leading and finally connecting to the basement. The question is, do you dare? Time is of the essence, yes, but you could always come back. You after all, aren't you all now buddy with the person who owns this place or is taking ownership of this place? A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And you all have a lot of knowledge as to one of the many processing plants for Milwaukee's version of the circulatory system. Milwaukee's chapter of the circulatory system.
Let's go in. What's the worst that can happen?
Well, the next beating is on someone else. I've had mine for this week.
Charlie is at a loss. Critical thinking is not her thing, so she's going to follow the lead of others.
No, we're not turning back now. I need to get my son free, and this is the way to do it. So she is going to open the door to the basement.
Mal, are you going to back out of knowing how some of the family operate? Or are you going to brave the recess?
I mean, she's a little too curious. I mean, she likes doing this kind of thing for just fun.
There are some truths that should never be found. You all have had some of that unspoken truth of Milwaukee thrust on you. You now know some of the depravity which has profited the Dunsers to operate beneath the scenes, behind everyone's idea of civility here in Milwaukee. Heading down those steps, you feel at first, before looking down and realizing that it is exactly what you feel. The first few steps are wrought iron, standard industrial steps, but as you hit that fourth, fifth, and sixth step, they're dark black stone. The space, which should be warm from all the machinery, is becoming cooler by the second. The concrete that you expect is not concrete, it is not aggregate, it is stone, having been carved from some place where, what is that, volcanic basalt? You're not sure. It's dark black stone. You dare not question what the mortar is that holds them one to the next. But you can smell it. Something melon sweet and dark. As to find this crafted chocolate. And as you head down, watching where the tubes intersect above, seeing them disappear into what appears to be this finely woven leather-esque tapestry. And as you keep descending lower and lower, the lights growing from red, orange, and blue to white and blue to full-on black lights made of flame. And as you finally reach the bottom, you realize that you've traveled farther than should be possible in this building. The story taps out at roughly 15 feet, usually, especially for undercrofts and lower spaces. You are sure that you've traveled the distance of roughly 2 stories, perhaps a little bit more, to come to a stop on a dirt-covered stone floor. The tubing you all were following, the machinery you all were looking for, converging into fleshly versions of that. Those tubes that were plasticized upstairs and rubberized are entrails, or as some people call them, chitlins. And they're still moist. They spring and strive together into an androgynous, naked individual strewn across what appears to be a huge harpsichord of some sort. There is a stake in their chest, and from their arms, from where their hands should be, is just pouring vitae into troughs, which empty into sub-troughs, which empty into smaller containers, which bottles can be filled from. And just past that, you see Peter Rossi looking. There's all sorts of glowing lights and diodes in the stone in a pattern. He's trying to suss it out, to figure it out. Those of you brave enough to continue forward realize that there's also a pattern in the dirt around you on the floor, falling into the crevices of carved in sigils and signs on the floor.
No, it suffices to say I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. But how do we turn it off?
I am attempting to find that now. There is a way to turn that off, but I'd prefer not to shut down the entirety of the operation for one invaluable potential tool. Allow me to hold on to your son for at most a week, so I can figure out how to safely do this without shutting everything down.
Baby.
Just out of curiosity, would Aaron recognize the kindred that's strapped down?
Probably.
I found this on.
I heard probably.
Probably not in with enough detail to pinpoint. Gangrel and Bruja may have heard of Daniel from Gary, but doubtful. Doubtful any of the younger kindred know who he is. And it's been years since he's been seen anywhere. As far as everyone's concerned, he's supposedly out west somewhere, Western Canada, doing something. But yes, that is the former gangrel primogen of Gary being utilized as a dispenser, part of an organic machine designed to drain humans.
Lily still has the axe with her because she never let it go. She looks at Ada Rossi. While that whole you keeping him for a week thing could work, this axe could also work. I don't want to wait while you figure this out. I need some sort of reassurance without... I can't leave here tonight without him. So we need to figure out another way around it. I don't want you to shut down your machine if this is what this has all been about. But I need my son with me when I leave this evening.
Well, then don't leave this evening. Stay with me a week. We can both find out the illustrious secrets behind Milwaukee's brew. The reason for all of this. The Castiglione and Tories, I'm not sure you are aware of. They are a multinational criminal organization. They have sources and forces spread throughout the other families. My family has fought them for centuries. And there's a game afoot that this will allow us to win. They have been manipulating things behind the scenes for ages. Some say they are even potentially responsible for the assassination of Prince Decker's child to remove him from play. And this, she motions around her, is their doing, their fallback point. They have used such places as this through other proxies to maintain a grasp on the city. This is our opportunity to save not only your less than valuable child, but the entirety of the city. Imagine Prince Decker free of his grief and acting as ally and protector that he once was. Imagine him seeing the error of his ways and once more being the field general leading the Anubi to keep us safe. This is it. This is the true value here. For some of us, she points towards Max, returning to the days of old, safely ensconced in our luxury, no longer having to slave in the field. Others of us, she motions towards Mao, free to explore with all due knowledge that no matter what is discovered, safety is assured. She motions towards Charlie, blithely, peacefully able to be as we are without being forced into indentured servitude for someone else's leisure. And then she motions to you, able to continue our business, protect our families, and ensure our secrets remain our secrets without having to brave these dark places ever again. There's much for all of us here, but we have to work together.
Millie, I understand that you are concerned for his safety, but it may be best to leave this to a professional who understands the workings of the system better. If we are not careful, we may only end up killing him.
A question. Do anybody know who that guy is? I pointed to the permission of the gang group.
I'm assuming he is the source of the special stock.
I'm assuming Charlie would know who he is.
Yeah. There's rumors, there's legends. There's the great Danov who ensured that the Camarilla, when he left the Camarilla with Inyanga, had no real power left in Gary. Danov who has raised protectors, warlords, and all manner of beings, including Prince Decker.
Dun dun dun. Nah, can't be.
Might be. What you got, Charlie?
It might be Danoff.
Do we think that maybe the prince should be made aware of said person?
I don't know. He's a bit flighty. Maybe I'll call Max.
That's a good idea.
I don't suggest that just yet. Knowledge is not power. The application of knowledge is power. If you are correct, and the central aspect of this whole system has ties to the prince, what could that mean? I'm not sure about you, but I understand that most kindred, even with the terse nature of their relationship from sire to child, would move heaven and earth if the merest suggestion of their sire might be near at hand. Yet, and she looks at the dust and the operation, how many kindred have fed from this? How many kindred may be under the sway of whoever started this? How many kindred may be bound by this?
That was going to be my next question. How many times people have drunk through this? There'd be a legion of people who are bloodbound to that guy.
Then perhaps it's best we keep this under wraps for the time being until we fully understand what exactly we've gotten ourselves into here.
But I think we both know what we've gotten ourselves into. The better question is, how do we get out of it?
Why would you want to get out of it? Do you have any idea how much money can be made from all of this?
Know how many bloodbound, love Poseidon, Hendrik who would want revenge on this? You really want to be at ground zero?
Only if you interrupt the flow. Only if you break the service of this. Only if you don't find a replacement before you do so. There are many factors to consider. And, most importantly, no one understands that it's here. No one has ever cracked the secret of how the Duncerns are so, in fact, powerful. Their association with the Castigliones was a threat that we've removed. We now have what is theirs. We do keep what we kill. And then she looks at Millie. And we have, instead of such paltry surroundings as this, we have a world-class gastropub from which we might be able to continue in a more controlled manner.
So what y'all proposing?
The world's most profitable blood trade. Starting here.
And I understand that your domain also has ample storage space where you could stockpile. so that when and if it becomes necessary to end this instead of just free Millie's child, you all still stand to increase your standing. The profitability of whatever is served here only grows with scarcity.
Hate to say it, but she got a point. Application of power is much more useful. Sadly, my child isn't strapped to a gurney upstairs. So, Millie, is your call.
What you getting out of it, Miss Pater?
Nearly the same as you, but so much more. The understanding of this stands to allow us the opportunity to end the Castiglione's other such organizational malaise, their control, their filth. We understand how they are doing what is done here and how they are circulating it around the world and increasing their coffers. We can cut the head off of the beast. Enemy of my enemy. And they are all of our enemies. They have been controlling who knows whom for how long.
I, for one, am more than willing to help you with this noble endeavor.
Millie's gonna sigh softly and lets the axe drop from her hands, turns around, and starts walking back towards the stairs. Fine.
X takes a deep breath. Well, guess that's the answer that we were looking for.
Excellent.
And as you all realize what you all stand to profit, while each of you are substantially decent off in your own versions of your lives, having access to all of the nearly exponential growth in resources, the near exponential growth in control of others, and your standing, the ability to force your freedom on the world and have it respected and protected by others, well, while money corrupts everything your heart desires, it's good enough to sell your souls, at least temporarily. And on that note, I'd like to thank you all for a lovely episode, and I'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Right.
Good night, everybody.
Night all.